Yeah, I've spent the last 30 years in consumer goods and food distribution companies, and I've had the good fortune of leading many consumer-oriented value chains, including at Frito-Lay and Del Monte, and currently I'm working with the team at Plated, which is a premium home meal delivery service in the e-commerce space. Yeah, today, theoretically, you can operate a grocery channel with 18 days of inventory. And really, that stocking level is based upon the lead times across the network. But the reality is that most grocery chains operate between 60 and 75 days. Even with that much inventory, you would expect to be at a 99% plus in-store, in-stock level. But the reality today for most retailers, they're in the mid-90% in-store, in-stock, and sometimes even less, particularly on promotion goods. Now, in my prior role, we did get across a traditional grocery market to 25 days of stock and 99% in-store, in-stock. And for that, we had dozens of service awards from the leading retail companies. So it is possible to improve that existing network today. But it's also important to recognize that the future digitalization of the networks is allowing even more efficient business models where you can take out 80% of the steps and 80% of the inventory between the harvest and your home. Yeah, in all of the business models, we must focus on a consumer-driven pull system. It's got to be driven backwards from the consumer. So that consumption data can come from the store, it can come from e-commerce or sensors. The good news is now we're at a stage of technology evolution that the IT is scalable. And so the entire network of business partners can operate on the pull signals across. So, replenishment signal for every DC, stocking levels for every node, and that means millions of locations. So that you can't do this manually. It must have an IT system that is automated and then exception-based for the users. In summary, it's everyone operating off of that consumer-oriented data. In the traditional push model, the supplier pushes information to the factory, and then the factory pushes that on with inventory to the DC, and then to the consumer, and it's all tied together with planning systems. In many cases, dozens of planning systems. Today, in a one network integrated solution, we've digitized all of this data at real time at every node. So each of those nodes are responsive to actual customer demand. To execute this pull consumer-driven network, it requires a multi-party tool. It can't be done with enterprise tools. And what that means is consumer demand is shared at the factory level, at the DC level, and the store level. And it's not just integrated with our facilities, it's integrated with transportation providers as well as suppliers. So again, everyone can operate with that single version of the data. We sometimes refer to that as single version of the truth. As we indicated, we must move from a push to a pull system. And so multi-party, multi-echelon means orchestrating all the parties to consumer demand in near real time. So traditional value chains have dozens of planning tools. We want to replace that with one system for all parties. The reason we need all parties is because it doesn't help you if your supply chain is agile, but your vendor is not. The whole chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And in the last couple of years, these multi-party, multi-echelon networks are also being fueled by the Internet of Things, which is providing sensors to capture the signals. Real time, it's automatic. So this IoT is enabling an autonomous pull network. Well, the benefits begin with improved service levels. And I'll give you an example. If you had 25% of your revenue done on promotions, but you only have 80% in-store, in-stock during those promotion timeframe, on a $5 billion company, this means you'd miss over $250 million of annual revenue. So getting service right, and that means over 99%, is going to increase revenue for the company and the retailer. So benefit starts with improved service. Second benefit is total lower system cost and less inventory. So in my experience, I got up to a 50% inventory reduction, and that provides a significant working capital benefit. But it also gives us the leverage then to lower our logistics costs, full truck, proper modes, and drive warehouse efficiencies. So the third benefit is more from the retailer perspective. So if the retailer has 20-day payment terms to the supplier and only 10 days of total system inventory, then the retailer can have negative working capital for those items. And we have seen that achieved at more than a half dozen retailers. Well, traditional retailers are under more pressure today than ever at any point in history. As an example, 17 retailers are closing more than 100 physical stores this year alone. But the retail channel will always be with us. So what it means is we must service them in the most efficient way from in-store in-stock, but also from an inventory and a cost perspective. And if we don't have a network-based tool, we won't be able to compete in that highly competitive environment. So that's today. But e-commerce is changing our world, and our network of fulfillment will also change. Fewer touches, less inventory. And without a network tool, you cannot compete in this emerging e-com environment. Well, I talk more about simplification of processes, not big bang reengineering. As an example, we need to automate what planners do and turn them into exception managers. We also need to automate the stocking levels at every node. That shouldn't be a manual job. We also take this in phases, and we want to phase the releases based upon the highest value to the company. So we focus on the areas in the company where change is going to give us the highest returns, and we'll embrace the other existing practices for now. By focusing on these areas of high return, we can then ensure that the whole program is self-funding. So third, in all of the businesses, we must measure what's important. So we have to focus here on revenue growth, margin improvement, and sustainability, not just for our company, but for our partners and our customers. So consumer-driven digital networks are an evolutionary change. We get there by taking on these high-value initiatives. But I would encourage you only to work with IT partners who have done it before. You do not want to reinvent these network tools.